How are y'all doing today? Mm. Mm. Wow. This is some really good stick. Oh man, what is this? Garcia and Garcia. Mm. Garcia and Garcia. Mi padre, my father. For those of you who don't speak very good Spanish. Mm. It's a very good stick. Mm. Sean Burton, uh, your host of the Swole Podcast, swolepodcast.com. How are y'all doing today? Um, Normally, when I do videos or when I do the podcast, um, we tend to avoid a lot of the harsh realities. You know what I mean? The garbage that happens in our lives. When we started this whole podcast, the idea was to take everything real, everything relevant, everything raw, and bring it to the surface. So that includes the good times and the bad. Um, Today was one of these days where just it is just one of those days. So in spite of that, and in spite of a conversation that I had with a good friend of mine, I decided to be a little more raw, a little more open than I would normally be. Because I mean, I'm nobody special. I'm nobody special. I don't come from anything special. I don't. I'm not any of that. But I feel that I have something that a lot of people could really benefit from hearing. It's a story. It's a story of when I grew up from a very young adult man boy to an actual man. If you hear the barking and everything, the dogs are going crazy in the backyard, which where I am obviously having this. Mm. So this is gonna be a bit long, and but there's a story. Um, a long time ago, I met a woman who completely changed my life. And for 4 years, it was the best and worst thing that ever happened to me. There was a lot of moving around. There was a lot of separation from my family. There was a lot of separation from my friends. There was a lot of separation from who I was as an individual. And as of right now, I am 10 times the man that I was when I first met her because of all this separation. And ideally, it is the thought that you you got to break a couple eggs to make an omelet. This woman had taken me out of my comfort zone to the point where I was a total stranger. Even to myself, I was a total stranger. Um, and there were plenty of times in this transference of me where I questioned myself. I questioned my ability a lot. I questioned um, my ability to actually progress in life, to be what I thought was a real man, um, to be able to provide for myself, to provide for a family, to whether or not I was even capable of loving another human being. Um, the zenith of this transference is started when the emotional and the verbal and the when the emotional and verbal abuse happened. I was when I first met her. I was a self-employed personal trainer in San Antonio, Texas. Um, that's a very good stick. Sorry, but that's a very good stick. I was a self-employed personal trainer in San Antonio, Texas. I don't have a business degree. I don't have anything. I just have my kinesiology degree, and I started a business with $1,000, no equipment, no business plan, no marketing, no anything, and it ran strong for a good couple of years until I had met this woman. Before that, I was a career personal trainer for the longest time, I held multiple certifications on my diploma as well. And then this particular woman that I was with started telling me how it's not a real job. You know, it's not a real job. You're basically just catering to all these rich women that have nothing better to do. Then it started going into, you don't make any money. You know, you're not a real man because you can't provide for me. You're not a real man because you don't have a real job. You're not a real man because you're not making, like, you're not getting up and doing a 9 to 5 and bringing home badass money. And it fucked with me. It really, to be honest, it really fucked with me. It fucked with me to a point where I actually started believing it. And I took what I did for 7 years, what I created from nothing, and I basically threw it in the garbage. And then I started to change. I started to, start being a more corporate version. I started, wearing slacks to work, and I got a job where I sat at a desk, and I didn't really make it to the gym because I felt like I was too busy, um, and I struggled with this for a long time, and I didn't realize it at the time, but it wasn't so much of what I was doing, because whether I was working a couple hours and making some decent money or working 14, 15, 16 hours and making some decent money, it was just never, it was never good enough, no matter what I was doing. Even if I had 2 jobs, it still wasn't good enough. When I realized this, that's really good. Sorry. When I realized this, is I had taken a job with a business mentor of mine in Florida, who was paying me really good money. I mean, really good money, to work for him. And he took a big risk on me, and I didn't want to let him down. I made the presumptuous notion that I need to take her, with me so I can be with her and work. Well, she was with me through the whole thing, and she lasted in Florida with me for a couple of months. And even though I was making great money, even though we were literally a couple streets down from a beach, it wasn't good enough. And it came down to, it's either her or my job. And I chose her. I gave up a really good paying job in a nice part of Florida, for her. And it's not too soon after that happened, the emotional and the verbal shit started happening again. You don't make enough money, you had a good job, and you weren't going to make it anyway. You were doing this and you were doing that. And thinking about it today, because like I said, today is just one of those days, it blows my mind, because I love to work. I love to get up in the morning and either go to the gym before I go to work, or get up in the morning, go to work, grind it out, make decent money, and then come back and do something else. Like, I hate not doing anything. And I don't know if it's just because when I'm not doing anything, I actually have a chance to sit down and reflect on how, fucked up I really am, or how fucked up my past is, or if it's just because I get bored. I get bored, and then I start getting cagey, and I start getting anxious for no reason, and then all of this stuff starts to happen to me. So 1 second. Having a hard time keeping this one lit. Well, I usually don't talk this much whenever I'm smoking a cigar anyway, so. Anyways. And so even though we've been broken up for almost a year now, and even though I'm still capable as a man, as a human being, beyond everything that was said, beyond everything that was done. There was a whole hell of a lot more done and a whole hell of a lot more said, but these are things that I don't think should be brought to the surface just yet. Like I said, I'm nobody, but that's just some shit that people really don't want to hear. But the point of this whole story is that even though the relationship is over, even though, I'm doing this podcasting thing and I get to travel a lot and I get to drive and I get to do all that, this, um, that her voice still echoes. That's the best way to say it. It still echoes in the back of my head whenever, it's just one of those days, nothing's going right, nothing's happening, it seems to be going really slow, and then I get this really, airplane, I get this really, deep, deep, insecure feeling, like, fuck, maybe she's right. You know what I mean? Like, fuck, maybe I am nothing. Maybe I am worthless. Maybe I'm just not a man. Maybe I'm just incapable of being a man. Um, and that usually lasts about a day or two, and then I'm right back onto where I was. Like I said, this is just one of those days where, there was no way around it. Basically, there was no fucking way around it. And it's weird, but I can recall a interview that I did with a friend of mine who felt the same way. Her issue was her body image issues. She always felt, like she was much more unattractive than what she really was, and she would get in these moods where she would just start pushing her husband away, and her husband would be like, no, chill, I'm still here, and you just got to work through this. And I honestly don't think it's ever going to go away, to be honest. It's funny because when I heard her say this, I thought to myself, like, that's bullshit. But in reality, it's not. I mean, if anyone's ever been in a shitty relationship, I mean a real shitty one, not like, I just got cheated on, like, the person who's telling you they love you and they can't live without you is also calling you a loser and calling you a moron or an idiot or fat or ugly or whatever. That shit never goes away. I don't think it ever does. I think it just minimalizes. It minimalizes to almost a non-existent state. But whenever something something that resembles even the smallest bit of those feelings, it springs right back up like a weed. And then you got to deal with it all over again, which it's a bitch, because what you're feeling and what you know are two different things. It's surreal. It's very fucking surreal to me, because I've normally been a very positive person, and I try to stay as positive as I possibly can. I'm a part of airplanes, dogs, the worst environment to film a YouTube video. What the hell was I saying? Yeah, I'm normally a very positive, positive person and whatnot, but realistically, I'm more of a realist now. Now that going through everything that I had gone through with this past relationship, it's crazy how much I've changed. And most people will call it, being negative, but I just see it as being realistic. I don't think these feelings are ever going to go away at this point, no matter how successful I am, no matter what I've done in the past, no matter, the writing that I would do, the poetry book that I had, self-published, the podcast, friendships, goals that are achieved in the gym, like anything, like no matter what, these things are always going to be there. And I just feel like nowadays my efforts are to deal with them when they come up. And unfortunately, it's really hard to do when you have nothing to distract you. It's very hard to deal with that because normally, and I think this happens with me, and I think it happens with a lot of people, we literally bury ourselves in work, we bury ourselves and seriously, it's like 3 planes in a minute. Fucking Christ. We bury ourselves in whatever we can to avoid having to deal with it. So, if you're still listening at this point, just know that I'm right there with you. You know what I mean? I mean, whatever insecurity that you have, I'm right there with you. It doesn't matter, how big or small or normal we are or we get. this is just a normal thing. And it's funny because when I was younger, I never thought that this was going to be it. Like, I thought it was either one side or the other. Um, but realizing and really realizing that this um, this is going to be a reoccurring thing in my life. It's not really that bad. It just sucks. It's just one of the things that sucks. It's like paying taxes. Paying taxes suck. It's not that bad, but well, depending on how much money you make, but it just sucks. Missing a PR at the gym, it sucks. Having to take a day off because you feel like shit, it sucks. But you deal with it. I think it keeps us honest. I think it's beneficial. In a way. But yeah, it's a bit of a surreal thing. Now, this obviously doesn't have anything to do with my show, but I just want to be I want to bring a personality behind the voice, and the last thing I want to do is be like everybody else, because I think that's shit, to be honest. I think if we strive to be just like everybody else, it's a fucking waste of space. It's a waste of humanity. It's a waste of time. Why be like everybody else? I was even debating even making this. I was debating even doing this because I didn't want to come off as this, this whiny ass dude that has these problems that nobody wants to give a shit about. And then I look on certain feeds and certain social media sites, and it's positive this, positive that. Or you can overcome this and you can overcome that. That reminds me, or I'm sorry, that comes off to me as like somebody who you're trying to talk to about your issues, and they're like, oh yeah, I get it, when they really don't. Like they're just trying to be nice, and the motivation at that point just kind of just goes to shit, because the justification or the validation to your point of view from them is just not there. Whereas if you do run into somebody who has been in that exact same relationship, or that exact same situation, you can actually talk to them and be like, yeah, you know what, you actually know your shit. You actually know what I'm talking about, and it just helps, so much. But again, like I said in the Valentine's Day video, part of being a man is knowing when to show emotion and when not to show emotion. I don't consider myself a normal man, an average man. I probably show a little bit more emotion than the average dude. But I mean, at the end of the day, like, who gives a shit, right? Life goes on, and I can think back to one of my closest friends from Australia. He when I was dealing with all this, he was there, and he was just like, well, you gotta understand, dude, what you feel is real. If you're feeling something like this, it's 100% real. If you think something like this, it's different. But if you're feeling something like this, it's 100% real, and you can't ignore it, because if you try to ignore it, you're fucked. And I believe he's right. I believe he's 100% right. If anything, if if this resonates with anybody, or if it's just laughed at, I really don't give a shit. If at least one person can see this and think like, oh shit, this is normal, because we live in a very dramatized, faked up world where people, especially on social media, are pretending to be a billion times happier than what they really are. They're trying to build up their relationships to be a billion times better than what they really are. And it's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. And if there is one thing that I want to do with this show and me and my social media accounts and my life is to get rid of the bullshit. Just be real. And this is this is real. This is I believe this is real life. I'm a personal trainer, writer, motivator, blah 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 blah. But I'm a real human being, and real human beings have insecure issues that they got to deal with on a daily basis. Real human beings probably have bad habits. Cigars, are probably not the best habit you have, but it could be a lot worse. And at the same time, I think it all just adds to you. to be honest. If you got your scars, show them. Might as well. No point in hiding them. If you have issues, then, I mean, either deal with them. If you can't deal with them, then deal with them when they come up. Because I honestly think this type of shit, like I said, is just never gonna. I don't think it's ever gonna cease. You know, it's one of those things where it's so deeply embedded in you that it's not gonna completely go away, but it can be taken down to almost a minute scale, to the point where you don't even realize it, or you don't even recognize it until something comes up, and then you gotta fucking deal with it all over again. But that's just the process, right? That's just the way life goes. Wrapping up here, I just want to let you know that, you know, you're not alone. You know, there have been so many fucking people with so many shit relationships that have, you know, much more deeper scars than what I have or what you have, and we go on. You know, I think back to my buddy Tanya. I think back to a couple of friends growing up, and a couple of friends now. They just have a bunch of shit on their plate, but you know, life goes on, and you know, and you can give up, you know, whatever you want. You know, that's on you, or you can continue, and again, that's on you. You know, the last thing that I want is for anyone to think, you know, to look at this video and think like, oh, this guy's bitching and crying, because I'm not. You know, this is real life. This is both sides of the fence. You know, the grass isn't green on the other side of the fence. There is no fucking fence. This is my grass. I got patches of dirt. I got patches of rock, and I got, you know, patches of grass. You know, that's just the way it is. You know, no one is ever gonna have that life where everything is just fucking sweet. Because if you really think that, then you're bullshitting yourself. You know, life is about balance. Life is about achieving some sort of balance. You know, balance shifts. So, gotta take your good days with your bad. Gotta take the highs with the lows. And a huge shout out to Nate for, you know, telling me that I need to keep being, you know, who I am. Because for a short period of time, I was wondering whether I was being too much of me. And Nate, you know, recognized that and shut that shit down. And for people like Nate, for people like Tanya, for people, you know, who are close to me, who are still close to me after these years. Keep in mind, I lost a lot of friends in that relationship. I lost a lot of friends. I lost a lot of closeness to a lot of people. You know, and that's my fault. It's, at the end of the day, it's my fault. I chose to stay. I chose to pursue the relationship. I chose to stay in the relationship. It's not her fault whatsoever. I don't think that she intentionally tried to tear me down as much as she possibly could. I don't think that everything that happened in the relationship, I don't think she intentionally tried to make happen. I just think that was the luck of the draw, and you know, we got to deal with the cards we're dealt. So, you know, I have nothing bad to say about her. You know, she's doing her thing. I'm doing mine, and you know, like I said, at the end of the day, it was my choice to stay, and it was also my choice to leave. So I did, and I find a weird amount of comfort in that, in saying that, because it makes me feel like I actually really have grown up. Whereas, you know, the past me would have blamed her, and you know, blamed the world and blamed everybody else but myself. But you know, at the end of the day, I'm still alive. I got my show. I have a couple of really good close friends. I have this stick, which is, again, just fucking phenomenal. And you know, I have an opportunity to be myself. And what I think is, excuse me, bug. I have an opportunity to be myself in a world full of bullshit, where it's almost like nobody wants to be themselves. So, food for thought. Take that for what you will. Hola, fuckers, and au revoir.